Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at this Toro Super Recycler. Customer brought it in and said that it makes loud noises whenever the blade is engaged. Now this has the blade brake clutch, so the blades aren't engaged right when you start it, but they are as soon as you squeeze the handle up top. We're going to go through the full diagnostics and repair on this to figure out what's going on and get it taken care of. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. First, let's show you exactly what kind of noises it's making. Definitely almost sounds like the blade's hitting something, and who knows, maybe it is. I haven't really done a whole lot of diagnostics on it yet. I did take a quick look and order some parts based on what I think's going on, but I'm not 100% sure what that sound is quite yet. We've got it flipped over. As we go to turn it, I don't see any spots around the outside edge where it's hitting or anything. I don't think that's the issue, but as I grab the blade, look at how much that blade moves back and forth. That is a ridiculous amount of play for something like this. And then also, this whole plastic is completely loose. Let's go ahead and take the blade and the adapter and everything off and see what else is going on down inside here. I wanted to show you that play one more time just from a little bit different of an angle. We've got, I think, a 14 that holds these on. And that it is. Blade adapter. The blade is not in horrible shape, but it's got some pretty good nicks and stuff out of it. The adapter is easy enough to take off. Normally there's going to be 3 bolts that hold that on. It does look like it's worn a little bit here. Nothing too bad though. Nothing to where I'm going to say we need to replace that. Definitely got a bunch of stuff up in it. It's never a good sign. Doing a little bit of cleaning every now and again would help prevent this from happening. Wow, it's just completely stuffed. Normally, I probably just would have went and got the vacuum from across the room, but it's pretty packed in here right now. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take the nut that holds this whole assembly and the bearings off. Let's see what's under there. It's a 22 to get it off. And then there's a little spring tension on here, and the whole thing will pull off, or at least it should. Got to make sure if these bolts fall out the back, just regular bolts. They are grade 8. And then you've got 2 bearings on here. If I spin this, I'm not sure if you can hear that or not, but I can feel that they're extremely loose. This is what's holding that in place on there. And if those bearings are loose, that's what's going to cause all of that play in those areas. I'm going to remove the spring at the bottom so we can get a little better view. That'll take that tension off of our arm here. Hold the 14mm at the back. And we'll take this nut off the front. And that whole assembly comes off. Now it is attached with a spring on the back side. Just move that around. That's the one that comes from the cable up top to engage your blade. All that looks in pretty decent shape. Right here we can see where the belt rides, that it's in really bad shape. It's not good at all. And this belt is pretty well cracked all the way around. I'm going to need to replace that belt. The bearings in here. If I'm replacing those bearings, I'm also going to replace the bearing here in the idler. And then also this piece that the belt rides against, because it's got a good notch there. That should be flat. Nothing wrong here. Everything looks good. I'm going to make sure there's not a big rust buildup or anything where the belt rides. It's the shiny part, because there is a little bit of slippage when you engage the blade. Everything looks good on there. So we've got these ball bearings. We've got 3 of them. I normally use the Toro ones. I'll put the part numbers to those down below. Just with these being for the blade brake clutch, figure it's probably best. We've got another 14mm and then a carriage bolt that holds this all together. Comes straight off. Got a spacer. Many times that spacer is worn out. I did get a new one just in case. That comes straight off. And then you do have a washer on the other side also. I did get another washer just in case again. Sometimes that gets worn down. Doesn't look too bad, but put those new ones on there anyway. New washer. I've got my spacer. But again, if you look how grooved that is compared to the new one, there shouldn't be a groove there at all. So you're going to want to replace that. Normally go pretty easily right down in there. You just put that bearing down in there just like the other one. You can still see that groove is real bad. Not how it should be. Put this back together. I always seem to forget how this all goes back together. I think we've got it figured out again now. Got that washer down there. Put your belt on together just like such. And it'll sit kind of in the middle until you put that spacer on and it'll center itself. And we can lock that all back together just like it should be. A little bit of anti-seize. Now that should spin without hitting anything. You shouldn't hear any noise when you spin it. Perfect. And of course I got the new belt on here. The old one's just going to be tossed. If this brake was any more worn, I would probably go ahead and replace it. It's not too bad yet, but it's probably about half of its life. If yours is worse than that, replace it while you're here. To drive the bearings out, you'll notice you can only do that one way. They can only come out from this end. On this side, it has a flange on the back side. What I like to do is just set it down in here, just like such. Use a smaller hammer in the middle and drive both of them out. Driving the new bearings in. I normally like to just use the old ones. As soon as you get to where there's a lip where the second new one will sit, go to the other side. And you can hear the difference when they're fully seated. I'm always hitting the outside edge because you don't want to drive from the inside, you want to drive from the outside. But using the old bearing is a very good way to get those down in there if you don't have a bearing driver or anything like that. Those are all seated. Start, we're just going to clean these up a little. You don't want all that rust on there. I'm going to put these through the backside. Just like such. As this goes up on, basically get the spring on here like this. Just hook it down in. And the other one comes on the backside. Just like such. And it'll come over, just kind of hang here until we get that on. Pull the brake kind of backwards. And you've got to have that belt all the way to the outside, otherwise it's going to pinch the belt when you tighten down that nut. Can hold the pulley at the back, otherwise it'll spin on you. This should all spin pretty freely now. Thought I was hearing something, but I'm just hearing those bolts since they were too far in hitting the backside. The only thing you're hearing is just the belt rubbing, and the belt is free if you look all the way around. Now we can hook our spring back up down here at the bottom. Means the brake will now be working exactly how it should be. We'll put our nut back on. It should be able to freely move back and forth. Everything should be tight, which it is. cover back on, and then all the rest of our accessories here. We're going to use a new gator blade on this. Now when I go to try to move this blade back and forth, the only movement I get is if I actually move the blade itself. None of the rest of it is moving. So I'm actually bending that blade as I'm doing that, but there's no play side to side. You can't take that and move that at all. It's the way it's supposed to be. Just throw some anti-seize in our 3 holes. They look like they're going to go in there just fine. Looks like whoever last had this apart that doesn't look like anti-seize, but luckily that came out. Many times they will break off when you're going to do this. You need to adjust that cable tension now. And I'm hoping we don't have any breakage down at the bottom. Just unplug this for now. Able to get it out of my way so I can show you a little clearer. The bolt right here, that is the one you need to loosen. That's going to allow you to adjust your cable tension. Not liking that. I'm going to heat it up a little bit, make sure it'll come out. I've got my belt kind of held out of the way. I'm just going to use my MAP gas, and I'm going to heat right down here. If you don't heat that, a lot of times you're going to just break off that bolt before it comes out of there. You want to make sure to heat that up if it's not coming relatively easily. What we're going to do is we're going to pull all the slack out of this all the way back, and then we're going to tighten it down. So you want that blade cable up top disengaged and all the slack out before you tighten it. I've already put a little bit of anti-seize down in there, a little bit more, never hurts. And again, all the way tight without actually pulling on the cable. And we're going to line this up. It kind of almost goes at an angle over here. And Now we're tight, and when we engage the blade, you'll see as soon as you start engaging, it comes back, and then we're there when we're all the way tight. So we've got a little bit of, get it a little bit better with my other hand, should have a little bit of room in between each of these springs up top. That's telling your cable is completely tight. That's how it should be. Now that that's all in, we'll put the piece of the cable right here like such. Get everything else out of our way. Line everything up, a little bit of anti-seize again there and on the bolt. I just see these break off so often. Now let's give it a try. Well, everyone, definitely not the most easy repair out there, also not the most difficult. With just a 14mm wrench and socket, and then a 3/8 socket, and a hammer, you can get this whole thing done, diagnosed, repaired, all taken care of, for a little bit of no money on a pretty expensive machine. Hopefully this helps somebody out if you're having issues with your blade brake clutch making noise, or not functioning like it should on a Toro Super Recycler. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already.